Marco Reus. Daniel Malen! Wonderful!
Fantastic from Reus. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham! Absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American. Just like that.
Graceful. Sally Hooch turn for Anthony Modeste.
Close. Not a bad idea. And there it is for Coco. For Borussia Dortmund. The long wait is over. Unbridled joy in the Adeyemi.
Hey, welcome to the BVB podcast. My name's Jake, joined as always by Carver. How are you doing, man? I feel like it's been a while since we've talked. I think it's just because so much has happened. There's been like 3 games since we last podcasted. How are you doing?
It's been 3 games, but it feels like 3 months almost. And I'm doing well. It's a little gloomy here in St. Louis with the weather, but could not be happier with the calendar year so far of how Dortmund are performing. So how are you doing?
Good. It also feels longer because you've done more podcasts than me recently because you're on the Yellow Wall pod with Stefan, and then we tried to have him on our show, and I also got kicked out of that episode. So I basically only did half a podcast in the last few weeks. So
that wasn't a connection issue. We just kind of voted you out halfway through recording.
I love Stefan tweeted the Jake sucks.
Screw Jake 2.0.
Yeah. Which I said it was the Carver and Stefan show 2.0, but I just love that he rubbed in the screw Jake again. But yeah, a lot has happened since I last podcasted. I don't know. Carver could be doing other podcasts on the side, and I don't know. Like it probably at this rate, just screw Jake all around. But we had our Pokal match against Bochum. Of course, we played Werder Bremen, and then as we're recording on Thursday night yesterday, we played Chelsea in that 1-0 win in the Champions League with. Carver, are you a How I Met Your Mother fan at all? Like, do you?
I am not. No.
Did you see all the How I Met Your Mother references they were dropping in all their graphics and everything on social media? Did you see any of it? And did you know what was going on?
I did not really get most of them, but I see what you were going with. Yeah.
Okay, we will talk about the other games, but I do want to bring this up. And if anyone, because I saw this, I'm a big How I Met Your Mother fan. I used to watch it all the time. It was one of those shows like that. In The Office, I would go back and forth with what I was watching before bed. But I don't know where if there's a connection that I missed, will someone please tweet me and tell me? Because I was like, why are they doing all these How I Met Your Mother things? And it was all perfect. It was amazing. I loved it. I don't know if it was just the color aspect because there's a yellow umbrella. I apologize if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you don't know How I Met Your Mother, but it was the yellow umbrella, the blue French horn, and I don't know if those are the only connections that they're like, cool, let's make all of our social about this How I Met Your Mother thing. I loved it. I didn't know why they did it, but I was like, this is great. And especially after the win with it was great. But I need someone to tell me why it happened. But anyways, let's rewind back a little bit. To the Pokal match against Bochum. Like that feels like it was so long ago, like we said. But quick thoughts. We won't dive in deep because we got a lot of other stuff to talk about. But quick thoughts on that win, Carver. And I will give a spoiler that I did not watch this game. I was planning to watch it on delay. It got spoiled. And then at that point, I was like, I really don't have time. So I'm not going to go back and watch it.
Well, you missed the fireworks, Jake. Literally and figuratively. This game was an absolute firecracker. I mean, all 3 of these games are pretty intense, but this one in particular, of course, you have 2 local teams going at each other in a big cup match. Bochum really brought the intensity to this one, but so did our supporters, lighting off fireworks just seconds into the game, really. But the players, too, I mean, it was very tough to kind of break them down and match their intensity, but we had some patience and eventually pulled out the win. I think this was a game that necessarily wasn't for Jamie Bino Gittins. He kind of struggled to kind of get into the physicality, intensity of it all, but our subs came in and made a difference. You have Royce coming back for this one, Modeste getting some minutes, but overall, I mean, very happy to go through in the cup, obviously.
Yeah, and I'll just run through the lineup real quick just because, as you said, Bino getting started, but we had Rierson at left back again, Hummels and Sule, our center backs, Wolf at right back, which we've been seeing a bit, Kobel obviously in goal, Chan was in this game again, and then as you mentioned, Bono getting started on left, Ocean, Bellingham, Brandt, and Aller up top. And then just it's seeing Ryerson on the left again. I'm going to ask you your thoughts on if you had any like standout thoughts about him, or is that something you're still liking to see? Like, it's nice to have the depth option, obviously, and have that versatility, I guess.
I mean, everything you mentioned and more. One thing that really surprised me so far about Rierson's game, aside from everything you just mentioned, is his skill and his ability on the ball, especially on the left side where he's kind of using his weaker foot. I mean, he's pretty silky on the ball at times and very skillful, has a lot of talent. So I'm happy that we have depth in that position out in the wide areas and someone who obviously can bring a little bit more grit into our defense as well. He's got that dog in him. But I wanted to mention also one more firework in this game, of course, was the rocket from Chan scoring from 55 or something yards out or so. I completely forgot about that for a moment. I was like, wait, what were the goals in this game? But yeah,
I did see the replay. I did see that.
Yeah, it was a worldie, and we had some great goals scored in these last few games, but that was the one that opened the floodgates for the Bochum game. And but yeah, I mean, overall, pretty happy with the performance of that game. It was just tough to kind of break them down in points, but it was very intense, and both teams were going for it the entire time. So I think it was just kind of based on transitions for that game.
And then I'm just going to go back to Ryerson again, as you're mentioning, like his skill on the ball, and part of it, it's like a confidence thing. And I know early in like his first match, one thing I pointed out was him just like going forward and pushing and pushing and pushing, just taking the ball, carrying it, or like just progressing the ball forward, pass, carrying, whatever. And I was like, I hope we keep seeing this. He could be riding on, it's my first game, I want to show out, like really pumped up, really hyped. But that's just like kind of his game. Like he just has this drive and determination to progress the ball forward and like confidence on the ball, which is great. And then, like you said, he's also like a dog in defense. Like he's great, and he puts that hustle in up and down the field. He can play both sides of the field. Excellent pickup so far. No complaints. I like it. And then we'll just jump right into Werder Bremen. So starting lineup here, Kobel in goal, obviously, kind of seeing this 4-1-4-1 again, which we've been, I know they like change kind of throughout the match and players float around, but kind of sit in this 4-1-4-1. Guerrero left back, Schlotterbeck and Sule, two starting center backs. Ryerson on playing right back this game. Chan in the middle again. And we see Brandt, Royce, Bellingham, and Reina. I think Ocean was suspended for this.
Yes,
game.
He was. Yeah,
for the Bundesliga. And Adeyemi
oh wait, no,
too,
excuse
right?
me. No, he was not. No, he was not.
He
not
was
for
not,
the Werder Bremen game.
Adeyemi was out, I think. I could be wrong. I could be making stuff up. And then Mukoko got the start up top. And my only thought before the game was, I remember what happened, and I'm sorry to bring it up again. I remember what happened when Carver witnessed the first Werder Bremen game at home, and I was very concerned that might happen again. So all I could think the entire game, especially in the 89th minute when we're up 2-0.
I was going to say, not to mention how similar these games were as well. I mean, you're up 2-0 with 5 minutes to go. I was like, where have I seen this before? But I want to go back real quick and talk about this system with, you mentioned 4-1-4-1, and how much it has made just a pivotal difference in how we defend and attack this calendar year has been really impressive and also very intriguing as well. I mean, you see players like Chan who look completely revitalized under this new system. I mean, it's kind of catering to his needs. And, he's able to obviously cover the back four a little bit more, drop in between the two defenders, provide support and attack. So I really like this idea so far. And I think maybe we could start to look further into maybe molding our system for us to play this system normally or heavily. Because I think, again, a lot of players can play in this system. And if we want to maybe look into another actual number 6 so we can rotate between Chan and whoever else. I mean, you have Ozchan, but I think, again, he's more of a number 8. Dahoud, same story. I think maybe talks for an extending Dahoud, maybe potentially on hold at the moment for, different factors, whether it's his injury record, maybe it's his salary, but also now we could be looking at a system that maybe suits another player around the world that, or another player around the world that might be suited in this system a little bit better as a pure number 6. So overall, yeah, again, very happy with the 4-1-4-1. It brings a lot more stability. The Werder Bremen game, similar to Bochum in a few different ways. It was also based or won from transitions. It was pretty end-to-end at times. Moukoko, unfortunately, picking up an injury. It was a tear in the joint of his foot. I think he's going to be out for about 6 weeks, unfortunately. So it kind of forced Haller to go in early, which was a little, I mean, obviously concerning for Moukoko, but also shit. Now you have Chelsea in a few days and you have Haller playing almost a full game. So thankfully we have the number 9 position, looking far back. It got a lot of depth. I think this is the first time in several years now that we have 3 number 9s that are ready to go. So if there's one position, I guess you could pick up a knock-in, that would be that one.
And then I'm going to backtrack again. Hopefully this whole episode isn't just me like backtracking and going, referring back
I just did that, so you're good.
I wanted to talk about like formation again. And because it's funny as like supporters and fans, like we get so hung up on like match formations. And then I think a lot of times coaches would almost laugh at that because it can be so fluid throughout a match. And it's not like we set up in a 4-1-4-1 and that's where we play the whole game. Like they'll change depending on, like whether they're going against the ball, whether they have the ball. Like formation is so fluid, and it's just something that we always get so hung up on. But it's just like nice, us as fans, like we need that reference point. We need like this starting block to like feel like we know what's going on. But with that formation and as it is fluid throughout the game, I think one of the biggest things, like this formation like suits a lot of the players. But I think what we're seeing too is like the players knowing their roles and knowing the system, whether it's like because they're in this set formation or it's because like everything is clicking. So it might not necessarily be formation is finally locked in. We're good to go, but it's like everything is locked in with the players. They know their roles. They know when to press. Like that's what we're seeing, which is I think is like so valuable and why I haven't checked any other teams across Europe or the world for 2023, but why I think we're the best team in 2023 so far with the best record. We haven't lost yet. And it happened. Like it clicked, it's clicking and that's so important, so vital why we're seeing this success.
And you mentioned the pressing. Of course, that's a major factor in it as well. I think you start to get some real glimpses of that against Leverkusen and seeing how the team is kind of bringing back that gegenpressing, if you will, from years back and learning to counter press very well. Of course, that plays into Chan's hands as well, but also that gives a little bit more freedom for players like Royce and Bellingham to get up and provide that defensive cover and pressing as well. So, I'm a big fan of what we're running with so far. I think it's working very well. And then also, I mean, players like Ryerson as well. I love having him as a fullback. I mean, again, he's similar to kind of like a Piszczek kind of player, Piszczek. I think he's in the 89th percentile for successful take-on. So again, I was very taken back by his skill on the ball, but we're looking pretty solid here defensively. I mean, I think at the last several games now, we've had a handful of clean sheets. I mean, Leverkusen, Bremen, Chelsea, 3 different competitions there. Excuse me, 2 different competitions, but one of them was just against Bochum. But the other ones, clean sheets.
I think we should talk Gio Reyna a little bit. Not that I'm going to rag on him or anything, because I think this is almost like a story of 2 halves. And this was another scenario where like subs made the difference. And we've been so used to seeing Reyna come on and score a goal. And this is like he finally got a start. And I just don't want people to like see this game and be like, oh no, is Reyna like falling off again? Because like it's football. Like you can come on and be the super sub time and time again. And then like you get your start and depending on circumstances or maybe like the pressure's a little different or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was upsetting to see like him, like just the whole team in the first half kind of didn't really do much. And then obviously Bino getting subs on for him and scores immediately. And I think that is like the contrast of that. It's like, oh no, what happened to Reyna? And like, I'm not concerned with Reyna. I just, something, if anyone's like, I don't know, I feel like there's supporters or like people, and I didn't see Twitter like immediately after the match if people are jumping on Reyna or not. I just want to feel the need to defend him.
That's Twitter. And also it just depends on what your opponent is going to look like as well. I don't think maybe this game against Bremen was the best suited for Reyna. And it certainly was a game that was that could have used a Bino Gittins. I mean, even early on in the second half, I was like, man, we're kind of lacking some pace right now in the wings, or even just really up top in general. I mean, Reyna's okay. He's kind of quick. Same with Brandt and everything, but Royce doesn't have the legs really. And you need someone who can run up and down the channels with some real pace. And I think Bino Gittins, I mean, he didn't really show that with his goal, but of course he brings that to the table. So
I don't know if he ran, like that was almost his first run on the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know if he moved much before that.
No, it was just pure positioning and finishing ability with his goal. But still, I mean, that's just the kind of player that I think we really needed to break Bremen down.
And then, I mean, we talk about the other goal, Brandt, just doing Brandt things. Like he continues to beat Brandt in 20.
You knew the cutback was coming before Brandt even got the ball, and he still pulled it off. And it was a brilliant finish. He continues to be class. I mean, everyone was saying the last year or so that we wanted to get rid of him. They're going right back into the shadows, it seems like. That's 10 goal contributions in just 20 games for Brandt in this season so far. And I think he's in the form of his life, really, at the moment.
He had 10 goals last season, which I felt was a good contribution, especially the
9 goals.
Was it 9? Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's in the league.
In the league. Okay, it might have been 10 all competitions. But I remember like people dogging on him last year, and that's like still a good stat for where he was playing. Like, don't you want your wingers? I think he was playing on the wing more, and obviously positioning was crazy last season with all the injuries we had, and like people were still ragging on him for 10 goal contributions, which I felt was good. Like I don't know why I would have to defend someone scoring double-digit goals in a season, and he's not this. And we had Holland. I know Holland was out a lot, but like, you know what I mean? And so now I love that he's already there now, and we have a lot of season to go, and he doesn't look like he's slowing down at all.
And it's even goal contributions aside, I think that's literally just half of the equation as well. I mean, look at just the grit that he's brought. And he said in numerous interviews this season that he's under Terzic, he's learning how to tackle actually and putting himself into challenges. You see him going up for headers. He's tracking back. He's making runs. He's putting in the work, man. And I mean, pretty much every aspect of his game that you wanted him to improve on since under Favre when he was looking just miserable. I mean, he is a completely different player now.
I did kind of misspeak because I think you were referring to goal contributions and I was referring to goals.
Gotcha.
I know he doesn't have 10 goals this season. We're not, no one on our team does. But I know I misspoke a little bit, but same difference, right?
Yeah, same difference. Yeah. Let's hop into Chelsea because this was a cracker as well.
Whew, riveting. Got to be up front. Totally honest. This is the episode where why am I here? After two weeks of me not really podcasting, I come back barely watching any Dortmund football for the last week to try to do a podcast. So I apologize because I was working. I was working the other day. I did not get to watch Chelsea. And the problem with, for those of you who don't know, well, welcome to any new listeners we have. We really appreciate you. And shout out all the new, I know there are a lot of new listeners because we've been seeing those numbers go up quite a bit over the last few weeks, this year, or over the new year, which has been awesome. So we really appreciate all you guys listening. I'll give a quick plug. You can always reach out. Twitter's questions, Twitter. If you got questions, you want to interact during, after, throughout the week, whatever, hit us up at the BVBpod. Give us a follow if you don't already, Twitter and Instagram. So if you're new and you don't know, this is a new job. Still really hyped about it. But I work for Carver and I live in St. Louis. I work for St. Louis City SC, our new MLS team. I do social media. And you would think working at a soccer club, you can just watch Champions League at the office. And the problem is I was doing that. Everyone else at their desk was doing that. But then I was also like live tweeting a preseason match. So didn't get to watch Chelsea. And then when the match ended, someone came up to me and was like, "Great Dortmund game, right?" And I was like, "Yep, thanks for ruining it."
I mean, not watching it saved you the heart attack because I think everyone here is going to be checking themselves into a hospital, I imagine, anytime soon because this team just continues to be a roller coaster of emotions. And this game was really no different. I mean, yeah, again, 4-1, 4-1, same kind of system here. Chelsea, I haven't seen them play too much this season, but I know under Potter they've really been struggling. I think they're winless in their last like 6 or 7 games now, or at least one win, in their last 6 or 7 games in all comps.
And
so
they
they're
bought
really
everybody.
Yeah, spent over $600 million since August, $350 million plus in this window. They're not looking anywhere near like a cohesive unit, at least on a regular basis. I mean, there were small bits and pieces, but really it just looked like a bunch of a team or a squad of individuals. But anyway, I mean, I think it wasn't a bad game overall from Dortmund. I think it could have been better in a few different senses, but the first 20 to 30 minutes, I think we looked really good, really dominated Chelsea pretty well, and then they started to grow into the game more. And second half comes around, and I think we looked pretty winded and just weren't able to keep up the same intensity, which is kind of the opposite of what you've seen from Dortmund this season so far. Usually it's kind of the other way around, and we're like second half FC, but this time around, I think we're just kind of gassed from these last few games. Of course, coming off the Pokal, and then you go away to Bremen, and then coming back for Champions League is a lot to ask for someone in just 6 or 7 days, but or not even that really. But I mean, the team held together well still. Did you have any thoughts before the game, or?
Yeah, well, I was going to point out the lineup and specifically to that and players being exhausted. Granted, yes, we have depth now, and we've been able to like bring on subs, but as you mentioned, like Aller had to come in for most of the game, like earlier than probably expected for the last match. And the core players who have been it's mainly the same players who have been starting the last 3 games, which was like midweek, weekend, midweek, weekend. Mm-hmm. Because Sule and Schlotterbeck are 2 center backs. Wolf was at right back. Guerrero did come in on the left back. Chan in the middle again with Bellingham, Oshchan, Adeyemi, Brandt, and Aller up top. So like that core, like Sule, Chan, Bellingham, Brandt, I think all that group, which all kind of play centrally. I know Brandt's been out wide a little bit, but you know he'll come inside or play kind of a number 10 role. Like that core down the middle, that spine has been the same. And you know those guys are working so hard. So you just imagine how tired they are from playing all those games.
Yeah, Chan, I want to talk about him real quick. He was class this game as well. I mean, he's looking
Mr. Champions League.
Yeah. He's looking like a completely different player. And I want to say like mentally, at least. I know Stefan mentioned this when he was on our show and talking about like kind of like the zen that Chan has had. And the more I like thought about that after hearing that, and the more I'm watching him this calendar year, I think I would have to definitely agree. I don't know if he's taking some sort of like yoga classes or taking up meditation, but I mean, Chan still gets frustrated in here and there. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, whenever he has these challenges now and he gets a foul called on him, he's not really screaming much. He's just kind of putting his head down, getting back on defense. And that's something that I would very much like to see continue for his style of play. I mean, kind of limit those boneheaded mistakes.
I think it probably plays into like the cohesion of the team. Like we mentioned, like they know what they're doing. Like they know their roles. And as we mentioned, like in January, having Haller come back and just that motivation and like the team looks more together. Like we saw it a lot last season, like the arguments on the pitch and a lot of guys just looking like they didn't want to be there. So I wonder if that's playing into this. It's like the team, like they're a real team, like, you know what I mean? And if they're getting along a lot better in the locker room, off the pitch, then that's only going to help. And yet, like Chan's a guy you could see before, like you could tell when he's getting frustrated and yelling at other guys. But if we've built these like relationships and like the guys are actually playing together now and we're seeing it like that, I think that explains a lot of that zen too. Maybe they're all doing yoga together.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Definitely, I get what you're saying with like the core or the spine of the team almost. I mean, it looks like it's pretty much going to be the same every week. You have obviously Kobel, and then you have the partnership of Sule and Schlotterbeck. Chan, I guess, at the moment, he looks like he's pretty much irreplaceable. Then you have Bellingham, and even if you put Brandt, I guess, alongside him, it was like a dual 10 or dual 8. That spine of the team looks like it's pretty much the same week in and week out. So yeah, definitely building that cohesion, that chemistry. But yeah, again, I think Chan just looks a little bit more calm now again, and hopefully he's maybe turning a new leaf for the second half or whatever side of his career, that he can maybe start to hone in on those things a little bit better and be a little bit more calm, and not get himself into those stupid situations where it's costing the team. But outside of Chan, I mean, yeah, so I know Chelsea created the better chances in the first half or so, but we still were looking pretty dangerous. I just think the chances that came from Chelsea were relied on individual brilliance, whether it be from, João Felix. He was looking very, very dangerous. He couldn't finish much at all. I mean, no one on Chelsea could, but
I saw the crossbar shot. That was like maybe the one thing. Like I saw live. I was able to look up from my computer and witness that.
Yeah, so that should have been a goal from Chelsea, but yeah, they just can't really finish. It looks like they can't finish really at all outside of this game. They've been struggling to score goals for weeks now. They've scored 1 goal in their last 4 games, and you'd see how desperate they are for a number 9 at the moment. And of course, they're going to continue to grow over these next few weeks, and they're going to maybe look a little bit more together come the second leg. But I think you're still going to see those bits or those cracks and the team of, maybe not trying to work that well together in attack, and maybe they're not going to be able to score many goals against us at Stamford Bridge either. But can we talk about Adeyemi's goal?
That was my point that I want. Well, just Adeyemi in general. I'll let you talk about the goal, but then I just want to talk about like Adeyemi, and I guess I'll just ask the question now. Like, has Adeyemi arrived? I was
officially arrived.
Backing him. I was backing him early on. I was like, you got to give him time. Like, you got to give any new signing time. And I'll say it again, stepping up from the Austrian Bundesliga to the big Bundesliga, it's a jump. And even though he's playing Champions League last year and playing well, there's a lot of change. And you just got to give players time to settle in. And that's why I'm not as hot on Malen, because he's been here a while and he's still not producing. And now, obviously, we're not seeing him, which I think is the right call, because we got depth now. He's got to work his way back into this. But Adeyemi is he's arrived. He's taken his moment. Now, at the time, that's the split you're seeing between Malen and Adeyemi, right? Like, Adeyemi probably hit this time frame where we got everyone back and they need to start producing, and Adeyemi's doing it. Malen's not. And yeah, I think he's arrived. He's here.
Adeyemi has 3 goals in 3 games now. He brings, obviously, just unbelievable speed, a lot more grit too.
The fastest in the Bundesliga. You can argue.
History.
You don't even say he brings speed. He is speed.
He is speed. Yeah. Meep, as Terzic says. But I love the way Adeyemi tracks back as well. I think Terzic is giving him some individual attention and some coaching, and just saying, when we're losing the ball in certain areas, Adeyemi, I'm going to need you to get back. And he's the one almost playing left wing back at times to get back and help us in defense. But man, yeah, Adeyemi, he didn't have a fantastic performance by any means, but he still is improving every single game, and he's scoring now every single game as well. And I want to talk about that goal real quick. So, the play starts with a Chelsea free kick or corner. So it's they're attacking, they're a set piece, and we get a little lucky fortune. I think that was off the crossbar. I think it was Havertz who initially headed in, hit the crossbar, comes out. Great clearance from Rafa. And then you see there's acres of space behind Chelsea. I think that's kind of a managerial problem in that sense. Graham Potter maybe didn't think that we could break on like that, which is silly because that's exactly the kind of team that Dortmund are. But anyway, so great
and we
clearance.
Have speed.
Yeah, then you have speed. And the ball's coming down, and I immediately yelled out loud. I'm like, just get your first touch. Get your first touch into control. And he has an absolute world-class first touch, Adeyemi. And now the break's on. It's basically 1v1 in our own half. Between him and Enzo. So he starts sprinting down the field, and you have Mudryk from Chelsea not really seeing the dangers, so he doesn't really track back, even though he's one of the quickest players in Europe as well. So I expected him to kind of help Chelsea out in defense, but I forget who was next to Mudryk, but it was him and one other player. It might have been like Felix or something, or Ziyech, that just kind of jogged back until it was too late at least. So you have Adeyemi versus Enzo 1v1 for 60 or 70 yards. And you have Adeyemi, he's just drawing him in closer and closer, waiting for him to dive, waiting for him to stick his foot in, and then he uses his sheer athleticism with the change of speed to get around him. And at this point, I'm thinking he's going to just shoot right at Kepa. I mean, no offense to Adeyemi, but I just don't think he really had the maturity in him or the patience or the composure to sit there and like think about what he wants to do. I thought he'd get around Enzo and then just kind of shoot right at Kepa, but takes another brilliant touch around Kepa to pass it in. I mean, I was freaking out. I could not believe it. I was spamming everyone. I was like Puskas already. I mean, goal of the year, no question. And then, of course, the celebration as well. I don't want to, throw that under the rug. So he does a gainer. I've never even heard of that term, to be honest with you, until the other day.
Really?
But I didn't. I heard like 3 different people talk about it, and I was like, "What is he doing?" I had to Google it. But if I'm not wrong, it's a backflip, but when you're going forward, correct?
Yeah, like moving forward. So you're like running forward, and then you backflip. Like,
that was sick.
Imagine it's kind of like, I think the best way to describe it is like if you're running, because you die like at the swimming pool, right? If you're at the swimming pool and you run off a diving board, but then do a backflip.
Yeah.
But you're still facing forward. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But I mean, the goal and the celebration both were just worldies by Adeyemi, and I was so happy. And what a goal to score on it. And that's what you're waiting for this whole game, really. I mean, you're trying to make a moment where you can go ahead, and Chelsea made a few, but they couldn't convert. And Terzic found that moment. This is a counter-attacking team that is just, it's textbook with our counterattacks. And we can be lethal, especially with speed, like you mentioned. And I mean, that's enough to get us ahead.
One thing I love a lot of things about Adeyemi. But I love that not only, as you mentioned, like we have to talk about the celebration, right? But there's so many Adeyemi moments like after goals that are just great that you always see them like hype up on their Instagram, and it's like him falling off everyone celebrating, or his backflip, or now gainer. Mm-hmm. Like it's just like you can always count on Adeyemi for these just random hilarious moments. Which is just another aspect to like why would you hate on him?
Yeah,
he's here. He's arrived. Hopefully the haters are going to stop. But I do want to ask. I think he got Champions League man of the match, but there's a lot of talk about Kobel and Kobel making a save at the end.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Kobel and who would have been your man of the match?
It would have been Kobel. I would have put man of the match for Kobel, and no disrespect to Adeyemi by any means, but I just think, there were some moments in the first half that Adeyemi could have been a little bit better. I think specifically he had the ball in the box and then tried to switch to his right for whatever reason, even though he's left-footed, and kind of blew that chance. But Kobel was just solid all around all game. We talk about him bailing ourselves out every single game, it seems like. It wasn't Kobel bailing us out, but I'm sure as hell close. He had 7 saves this game. How many of them were diving? How many of them were hitting where the spiders live? Top corner. And he was dancing on his head, of course.
Yeah, puberty, am I right? I think we give Kobel enough praise, even though sometimes I forget to mention him when I mention the starting lineup. He's a top player, like one of our most important players, if not the most important. He's saved us so many times. He's kept us in so many games. He's gotten us so many points. I know Bayern are itching to get him, and I'm surprised that we haven't heard this talk sooner for them trying to get him. And I love that he's mentioned on multiple occasions and very recently that I'd be happy to spend my whole life and my whole career at Dortmund, and I freaking hope so.
Based.
Ooh.
Looking into the second leg, I know Chelsea have a lot of injuries as well. They have no number 9 right now. Broja is injured for Chelsea. They don't have Conte, of course. Sterling is injured. Pulisic is picked up another knock, but even then, he doesn't really get into the starting 11 much. So I think if we could just somewhat control the game and just remain calm and try to go through the motions and maybe bag one or so, like a smash and grab, I think we definitely have the upper hand here, given also that Chelsea don't really have many game changers on the bench. I was surprised to see Chilwell start for Chelsea, if I'm not wrong. I thought he was injured before this game, so I didn't think he was actually going to come and play a full 90 minutes here. But, I mean, I knew their bench wasn't going to have much of anyone to come and make a difference. I mean, you have Mount, who's been really struggling, and the Chelsea fan base looks genuinely split between if they want him to stay or not. I mean, Cucurella, it looks like dog shit at the moment, and he's not going to do anything. And after that, it's just a bunch of younger players, and then of course players who are still coming back from injury too. So if we're able to, weather the storm for a bit at Stamford Bridge, I think we have a real chance of advancing here. And I would love to just wipe that the face of Bowley with another win.
I have a lot of confidence. So the game's not till March 7th, so we got a couple weeks. But I don't think that's like enough time for Chelsea to turn things around. Like they're so like disorganized. And part of the issue is like they do have all these injuries, right? And they've brought in all these new players, but it's going to take those new players time to gel, no matter like how good they are. And I know they like spent way too much in the market. Like they pumped up the amount. They shouldn't have played. I don't know. I can't think of the word, but you know what I mean? Like they overpaid for a lot of these players. But that doesn't mean like you're going to buy all these players and just be like, yep, we're going to be great. Like, no, like it doesn't work like that. They need to gel, and these players have had to come straight in because they have so many injuries. And I just don't see them getting their shit together enough. Like I know it's going to be a tough game. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. We could go there and easily lose. But I'm not trying to be like pessimistic there, but it could be a tough match. But I think if we like start strong and just like overwhelm them, like if we blow their confidence early, not even in getting a goal, but just come out fighting and make them realize like crap, like it's going to be another tough one. Like, I don't know if, they're going to be at home, but I just think we're so organized and we have our shit together and they don't, that if we just come out strong, like we can leave there with the win.
The only thing that's keeping me from going, I guess, over the edge and saying it's going to be a win is, of course, Chelsea do look a little disheveled at the moment, but I also think, and the vast majority, if not all of the Chelsea fan base said that first half with us under Potter was the best half they've had so far under Potter. So I think they're turning the corner in the sense that Potter's kind of starting to figure out some things. He's easily creating or getting this team to create a lot of chances, have a lot of confidence as well. But it's just a matter of finding someone who could actually get the ball in the net, which seems like their biggest struggle at the moment. So I feel like in the next 2 or so weeks, or 3 weeks, excuse me, if they continue to pull things together, I think and get the midfield to click a little bit more, they will look a little bit more dangerous for sure. Because I think Potter is starting to figure some things out, but will it be enough, though, is the question.
Yeah, I'm going to have, after going on my rant, I'm going to have some like Dortmund/Chelsea fans, people who are fans of both. I'm not saying Dortmund or Chelsea fans, but people who are Chelsea fans who randomly listen to this podcast probably come at me for saying, what are we talking about? We're figuring it out, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just like, I don't know. I also foresee them like losing this weekend. Like if they play well for a half, then maybe they fall apart the next one. I don't know. That's not even me like trying to dog on Chelsea, but like when you look at teams in these kind of situations, they could get it together in a couple weeks. But just how I foresee it, I think we have a really good opportunity because it's 2 weeks away. Like we can be one of those, another stumbling block for them. You know what I mean? Like if this is more dependent on us and how Dortmund comes out and plays, is what my whole rant was about, I guess. Like I just think we can kind of knock them back down if we come out strong.
Yeah. And that kind of answers one of the Twitter questions that we had and one of them is Oliver1909, who asked, how shall BVB approach the second leg against Chelsea, which I kind of already mentioned a few things, but as for personnel changes, I mean, of course, I'd like to see Royce come in. I thought he was going to come in this game against Chelsea, but and Reina as well. I think both of them could obviously be game changers. They could create chances. They could both finish. So I'm very happy to have them as options. Hopefully, fingers crossed that no one picks up any knocks before then. But that's probably how I would approach the game. Yeah. Do
you remember? Okay, when we played Man City and we played that like sat back a lot. We were just absorbing all this pressure. We had this weird formation going on, but it worked, right? Do you foresee going to Chelsea playing a little more back like that match, or just kind of like we've kind of been playing this certain style and it is the pressing? You think we kind of stick with that and use that like we've been doing?
I think it's probably going to be pretty open, to be honest with you. I don't think this is a team that we're going to sit back against. I could be wrong, but I don't think Terzic is really the guy for that, unless it's like a team like Man City. But Chelsea, I just don't think is a team to do that against, especially when we have so much confidence at the moment. But yeah, I think it's going to be pretty open. I think it's going to be end to end, just like this one, and it's going to be a barn burner. I mean, I'm very, very nervous, but I'm also very excited as well.
Yeah. So again, we'll be playing second leg March 7th in London. I also got to shout out the supporter section, the yellow wall. That tifo that they had was just insane too.
It was awesome.
Not How I Met Your Mother related. They did not link up there on the creativity, but it was amazing. And
I saw the tifo translate to every time it was worth standing by your side. And it has, of course, someone traveling all across the world. So I thought that was very touching for a lot of fans that do travel across the world to come and see this play or this team play. And the journey will go on forever. I'd love this team more and more with just pretty much every aspect about it. I was going to name a few single things, but I was like, there's really nothing that I don't love about it. So
I want to hear all of them, and I want to hear you start crying, get emotional. Anyways,
that's
Chelsea
for our Patreon.
Yeah, this is a good time to announce that we don't have a Patreon yet.
Yeah.
That's something we've been thinking about. If you want to give us money. But yeah, March 7th is the second leg, Chelsea. Coming up this weekend, though, we are home again versus Hertha Berlin. Kickoff 11:30 Eastern time. Obviously, it's on ESPN.
Berlin have just won one of their last 5 league games, which was recently against Gladbach. They won 4-1. If anyone hasn't seen Dardai's goal, from that game against Gladbach, then you should look it up right after the show. It's a rocket right into the top corner. It's one of the better goals of the season so far. Berlin have only also won one away game this season, and that was against Augsburg. They've scored just a single goal from a set piece this season. Other than that, I haven't really seen much of Berlin play much at all this season, to be honest. I know Schwartz is their 8th manager in their last 3 years. I thought Dortmund were pretty bad with the turnover rate with their managers, but that was stunning. I didn't believe that stat. I had to go and look at Berlin's managerial history, and I was like, oh shit, that's actually correct. 8 managers in 3 years. I know they can be effective at creating goal scoring opportunities through their individual skill and their individual talent. They've got some injuries as well, but overall, I'm still feeling very confident about this one. I mean, this is our second home game in a row back in the league. I think we're going to boss this one and then potentially give up one stupid goal. I think we're kind of fizzling those out in recent weeks, but it doesn't mean we're immune to them by any means. So I'm going to go with a 3-1. What are you thinking?
I am going to go 4-1. I think we're going to run rampant.
But I was like, I should probably come back down to earth a little bit, but I hope I'm wrong.
It's also a good opportunity to see some rotation too. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Modeste starts.
Scored against Berlin last time, Modeste.
Yeah, so maybe he'll get the start because as we were mentioning, it's like we haven't really had that rest. Some of the guys, I mean, here and there, but not as much as we wanted, and now or what maybe the guys needed. And now that we are back to no midweek games for a couple weeks, we might see some rest coming off the Chelsea match. So, but yeah, I'm going big. I'm going 4-1, and I'm feeling pretty good. I hope this. Nothing. I'm not against anything. Just I'm feeling good, feeling confident. And since when have we been able to be confident as a Dortmund fan?
It's been a minute. I mean, 7 wins in a row will do that for you across all competitions, no less. We've had
after
3...
Go ahead. After the 4 wins, I was like, well, it's got to end sometime. Yeah. But now I'm just riding it. Now I'm like, nope, best team.
We're on this train,
2023.
Baby. Treble incoming, 2023.
And this is where it falls apart when we finally get settled in confidence
and happy.
Oh God, I hope that. No.
Do you want to hit these 2 Twitter questions before we get out of here?
Yes.
So we have Yanuzai Stans. It's funny, Yanuzai. Remember? Did you ever watch Yanuzai play? I know you said you were not. I'm not going to say new to European soccer, but I don't know if you saw him play. He was like
Carver. Let's just keep throwing me under the bus. I'm a fake Dortmund fan. But only
Yanuzai
been here a
played
little
for Dortmund.
bit.
He had
I don't actually watch the games.
That's funny. Yanuzai played for Dortmund. I think it was just like a half-year loan, and he was pretty dog water. But anyway,
where's Stefan? We need Stefan.
Yeah. Yanuzai Stan asked thoughts on Eden and how much he has improved in 2023, both in terms of tactics and as well as backup plans. Which this kind of blend. I'm going to try to answer both of these at once because it kind of blends into this other question that I liked from Derek Dickens, who asked, "What was the biggest factor in the turnaround this far this calendar year?" I mentioned it last week with Stefan a little bit already, but I think the new assistant coach has helped a lot with the set pieces, both defensive or defending and attacking. We've looked a little bit more organized in defense. We're scoring goals actually from set pieces. I think we had 2 or 3 in 2 games in a row now, as opposed to I think it was before that. And in 2022, we had 1 in the last 90 games or something like that. It was ridiculous. But I mean, of course, the set pieces are looking pretty well. I don't think there's one overall factor. If I had to choose, it'd probably have to be the depth of the squad now that we're finally having after 2+ years or so of having a lot of health in the squad or healthy players in the squad. And particularly in the wide areas, now that you have the addition of Rierson to the squad to bring that grit in the defense, help out with the wingback situation, and then you have JBG back, you can kind of go at different games in really any way you like. I mean, you could play a little bit more narrow, you could play a little bit more wide, you have a lot more versatility in your squad. So I think the depth probably would have to be the most, or the overall biggest factor for the turnaround. But yeah, I guess to answer both those questions, the depth in the wide areas, the set pieces, of course, we're finally focusing on those a little bit more. I think Terzic's game management is a lot better. I mean, night and day from just look at the 2 Bremen games, really. I mean, back in August, conceded 3 goals in 5 minutes, unfortunately, and that a lot of that falls on the manager. And here we are away at Bremen, and we keep that 2-goal lead. And I think we've he's proven himself a lot with these other big games as well. I mean, Leverkusen away, that was a big game. Of course, in the Champions League as well. So Terzic has improved in a number of areas, but those are some that stuck out to me the most.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add except the Haller factor. We mentioned it before, but
how could I forget that too?
How much? Because that's not necessarily
we mentioned it already last week too. But yeah.
I mean, it plays into the depth and him having his options, not even options, but his game plan. You know what I mean? Like he can implement his game plan. He can play how he wanted to play since they signed him. You know what I mean? And just the factor of the motivation and encouragement that brings to the whole team and the locker room and everything, and just the whole Dortmund front office, fans, everything. You know what I mean? It can bring so much together and bring so much to this organization as a whole that I think that's been a big part too. Not that he's come in and he's scoring week after week, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah. And you can keep, and this isn't necessarily about Terzic, but you can keep going down the list of other driving factors for the turnaround too. I mean, you can look at a handful of individuals that have really revitalized their season so far. I mean, Guerrero has 5 assists, or if I'm not wrong, in the last 5 games. 5 assists in the last 4 games. And I mean, of course, I don't know if it's just a matter of him wanting an extension or just, the threat of other wingbacks trying to take his role from him. But he's been on fire. Adeyemi playing on the left now. He's on fire. He's starting to hit the ground running this year. Brandt is in the form of his life. If you had to choose this, we'll end on this. If you had to choose in this calendar year who the best player at Dortmund is, and I'll narrow it down to 3 because I think it's 3 players you could think of, would you pick Adeyemi, Kobel, or Brandt?
Wait, for this year, for 2023 or
the
season? Brandt.
I would go Brandt as well. Yeah, and those other two very, very close seconds, but I'd have to go Brandt.
Kobel's just like still Kobel from last year. Like he's like, you know what I mean? Like he was amazing last year, and he's like still in that
game of his career in the fall, which again is 2023, so it's irrelevant because it's last year. But I'd still think Brandt is the best player on this team right now.
Yeah, Brandt has been Brandt boys. That's all we need to see. That's all we need to say. Brandt
but
boys.
all three of them deserve all the praise. I mean, Brandt got Bundesliga Player of the Month for January. Adeyemi, rightfully so. He's getting awards. Kobel should have gotten a second man of the match, if that's even a thing. But very happy with everyone so far.
Kobel was the Fought Mob highest player of the match.
He's the man of the match in our hearts.
All right, I think that's it for this week. Man, we went way longer for me not watching half the games and just relying on Carver. But we went way longer than I thought we were going to. So Carver, I appreciate you talking the whole time.
No worries. I had to go back far in my memories. Man, 3 games in a few days will do that to you. It feels like it's been weeks, but
yeah, it feels like it was so long ago.
But I mean, we are literally we are truly soaring at every single competition so far. I mean, by this exact moment last year under Rosa, we were out of the Champions League, we were out of the Europa League, we were out of the Pokal, and we were dog shit in the league. And I mean, if you can go back and look at the Bundesliga table a few months ago, right before the break, and we were still dog shit in the league. But now we're top 3. We're just 3 points behind Bayern. We're in the Champions League and have a great opportunity to go into the next level in the next round. And of course, the same with the Pokal as well. So things are looking up, and I am here for it. And I'm pumped to see this game this weekend against Berlin and just continue riding that train.
I am. God, wow. My voice is cracking all night long. It's the curse of not being prepared by watching my games. I'm also here for it. But if I'm not going to, not that I expected this to happen, but I just know that next week, maybe I will be crying out of sadness, and that's fine because that's the life of a Dortmund fan. But right now I'm here for it. I'll be emotionally ready. I'm ready to be emotionally wrecked at any moment also.
Yeah.
But for now, let's keep cruising. We appreciate you hanging out and listening again. As I mentioned before, thank you so much. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at thebvbpod. You can, if social media is not your thing, you can reach out on email. I haven't checked our email in a while. Hopefully there weren't any questions there. I think we're good though. thebvbpod@gmail.com. And then we link a bunch of stuff in the description of this episode. We haven't had him on in a while, but shout out to Adam Dorosky, who covers everything you would ever want to know about the Dortmund women's team, which is always flying. But if you want to know anything about the women's team, make sure you follow Adam. And if you want to find a local supporters group wherever you live and you want to find some Dortmund fans in real life, make sure you check out the link there. Also, I have that linked in the description of this episode. So make sure you check that out. And if you haven't, leave us a nice rating on Apple or Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating. On Apple, you can say some nice things. If you have mean things to say, that's where you can email us.
Yeah. Keep it private.
We appreciate you listening.
Peace.